Warning: the following podcast contains graphic content that may be disturbing or triggering to some listeners. Discretion is advised. The Papa Tango Sierra Delta podcast is available free of charge thanks to the support of Cracked Armor.
Their mission is to raise awareness for PTSD, TBI, and mental health to support those who struggle. By creating an army of warriors who represent the gear, their hope is that it will send a message to others that they are not alone.
Go to crackedarmor.com, say hi to Mark Long, read about the story, and find some research information about PTSD. And if you can, look good while supporting Cracked Armor by buying some gear.
(10-9). Did you say Papa Tango Sierra Delta? 10-4.
There's so much left to do, so many things I wanna say, and I say, don't make the change. If it rains every single day, I'll fight to blow it all away.
This is episode 34 of the Papa Tango Sierra Delta podcast. My name is Larry Payton, and I have been diagnosed with complex post-traumatic stress. Praises. Hi, Larry. My name is... I started listening to your podcast faithfully the day it came out. I am a paramedic, and my partner and I would listen in the ambulance as soon as an episode would drop. Your podcast started conversations between my partner and I that we have never had, and that's powerful. Looking back, it's kind of terrifying that as partners of almost 3 years, spending over half of our lives together for all these years, we never had those important, emotional, stirring talks about our own trauma. You would think that it would be routine, being raw and open with the person you go through so much with, but as you know, emergency service personnel were taught different. It's not your emergency. Hurry up. Go back into service. You're needed elsewhere. Don't show any emotion. PTSD was always an interesting and important topic to me. Something I wanted more education on, whether it was to help my patients or colleagues. I had no idea that I would soon need the education to help myself. I have so much respect for you and those on your podcast for being strong enough to share their stories open and honestly. I put my uniform on preparing for my night shift and I had a panic attack. The whole works. The whole time I was thinking, you need to snap out of it. You're being foolish. You're going to leave your partner half-staffed. You need to push through and go to work. Well, my partner is the one who told me to not come in and to take care of myself. I had no idea what was going on. That whole week after I spent trying to catch my breath, I went to see my NP, who then put me off work. One thing led to another, and I was diagnosed with CPTSD on. After years of sweeping things under my rug, the wind picked up and blew it all over the place. Long story short, I haven't listened to your podcast since I went off work in fear of what feelings it might stir up. But today I did, and I just wanted to let you know that I am so grateful for what you're doing. I no longer feel like I am damaged goods, but stronger than ever for what I have been through. I still have lots of work to do, and the path isn't clear, but because of your podcast, I'm not ashamed of my diagnosis. Maybe this is me oversharing, but I just wanted to say because of you, I don't think twice about taking a step back and asking for help. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. I have your 6. For the person who wrote this, if you're listening, please know that message really struck me hard. It just, I felt horrible for what you're going through, but it struck me hard as well in a very positive way. In a way that just made me feel that what I'm doing is helping someone out there, legitimately helping someone. That you did not know you were struggling with this, and I am so grateful that you have since determined that, because who knows what would have happened if you let it go on and on and on. To the person who wrote this, I love you. I have your six. And for as long as I do have your six, know that you will never walk alone. Let's take a quick break.
This episode of the Papa Tango Sierra Delta podcast is brought to you thanks to the support and financial sponsorship of Cracked Armor. Go to crackedarmor.com, read the story, buy the gear, wear it, to send a message to others who are struggling that they're not alone.
Also, check out Willow Tree Farm, care of Jason Subkowicz, another member who is struggling with PTSD and who frequently updates his Instagram to share his story. You can follow him at jason.subkowicz. That's jason.Sierra Oscar Bravo Kilo Oscar Whiskey India Charlie Zulu.
And we are back from the break. Thank you very much for sticking around for the Papa Tango Sierra Delta podcast. On this episode, coming all the way from Saskatchewan, I have Nathan Rollack and Ang McEwen. Great to have you both on the show.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. So, Nathan, we'll start with you. We probably should start ladies first, but it's like you're right next to me on the screen, so I'm kind of thinking maybe I'll just start with you. Please, introduce yourself and tell us about your journey.
Sure. So I was born in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. I've been a paramedic here in Saskatoon since 2013. Started paramedicine back in 2011, so I've got a bit of a mixed bag of experience. Worked in Prince Albert for a little while, did some northern Saskatchewan work, came back home, and since then I've gotten my advanced care paramedic schooling, worked for a number of years. I'm now a licensed critical care paramedic, and I work for Saskatchewan Air Ambulance, as well as a handful of other jobs that are subcontracted, but work with the tactical team, have some involvement with the fitness team here at work, a couple other things, doing some instructing. Have a dog, a fiance, and we're expecting our firstborn baby any day here.
Oh, wow. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Very exciting. First one?
Yeah, it could be an hour from now, or it could be a couple weeks. We'll see.
Well, let's kind of hope it's more,
Yeah.
more than an hour.
Finish the pod.
Right? Well, it's like, listen, man, it'll be a first. It'll be an exclusive right here.
Well,
on the,
we'd have some time.
Awesome. Thanks, brother. And we got to meet at the World Police Fire Games, which is really cool.
Yeah, that's correct. This is the first year since they have done the World Police Fire Games. They allowed paramedics to come. So myself and another buddy of mine traveled out for the CrossFit part of it. That's where we met. And
Ange, please introduce yourself. Tell us about your journey.
Hey, my name's Ange. I am originally from the East Coast, being in Brunswick. I guess after high school, I took a criminal justice program out there at a community college, which led me into some provincial corrections jobs. I met my now husband on the East Coast. He was hired with the Saskatoon Police Service, which led us to moving to Saskatchewan about 11 years ago. And then I started my career in policing in 2014. Was on the front lines in patrol for 6 years, 6.5 years. And then I'm currently in the gang unit for the last 3 years. So I also have 2 dogs and my husband that I talked about, and that's about it.
Well, you got to tell us what kind of dogs they are.
I have a Bernese Mountain Dog crossed with Shepherd Collie, and I have a Pity Mix.
Yeah, so do not break into Ange's home.
Correct.
Bad idea.
Yeah.
So, we said before we started that typically we talk about operational stress injuries, post-traumatic stress. Nathan, you have not been diagnosed with any experience whatsoever with post-traumatic stress, traumatic brain injuries, operational stress injuries at all?
Yeah, you're right. I've not been diagnosed with PTSD, although I think I'd be fair to say that in our line of work over the last 12 years, I've definitely had some occupational stress injuries. I can think of, like most people probably think of 5 or 6 things that are really seared into your brain when you think, want to pull them up rather quickly. So yeah, I would say that there's been some exposure.
Yeah, there's no doubt. Absolutely. And Ange?
Same thing, like no formal diagnosis of anything. However, like Nathan, definitely some rough patches along the way in a 9-year career, some traumatic incidents, and for sure, I would say considered occupational stress injuries, but nothing kind of permanent or,
no.
As of yet, and hopefully not.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. Yes. It's good. That's good. Yeah. I mean, and it's something like the biggest thing that I can only say is, yeah, it's something to always make sure you're attuned to, because otherwise it adds up. I mean, that's at least what it did for me after 22. Right. So it'll add and it'll add. But Nathan, I mean, we weren't necessarily focusing on the, post-traumatic stress on this episode, because when you and I met, you had talked to me about an event that's occurring it's in Saskatoon. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. As I had mentioned, when we met you at the World Police Fire Games there in Winnipeg, the motivation was to come compete for ourselves as paramedics for being able to come out for the first time. And then my friend and I, who is also an organizer of this event, we came out to also promote our event on kind of a bigger scale. And so when we saw your booth at the event there and we started chatting, it was very obvious that our causes aligned very clearly, and so that's how we ended up here. The event itself, if you'd like,
please do. Yeah.
And so there's 5 of us: Angela, myself, another SPS officer who's a friend of Angela's, another paramedic, and a firefighter. And to be quite honest, the 5 of us chatted via email last March about the potential of making this event happen. I had known of Angela through her husband back when I worked in the police detention when I was a brand new medic, so there was a familiar name on the email chain, and we met up, and fast forward, I suppose, now to 2 years later, almost 2 years later, we're planning our second event, and so I'll let Ange maybe talk about a bit of the details, though.
Yeah, I guess I'm a little bit of a fitness nerd. I think it's really important, especially in our line of work, not only to stay fit, but as an outlet for kind of the mental health side of things. Chris Harris, the other SPS officer who plans this with us, he is a competitive obstacle course racer. And then I'm more on like the CrossFit side and strength side. And we happened to just watch on YouTube the Spartan Games. And they kind of got all these athletes from all these different disciplines. Like there were NFL football players, there were CrossFit athletes, there were marathon runners, and they kind of put them through these series of tests, and they were all for different disciplines of sport. Like there was nothing that really favored anyone specifically. It also included obstacle course racing, and him and I watched that series and we were like, man, it would be really cool to do something like this with our industries, like to do it with police and fire and include the medics, and like it would be so cool. And he hopped on board and the wheels just kind of started rolling, and we got Nathan and Bo on board and a firefighter, and of course we had $0. We had an idea and nothing to go along with it, and we knew really to gather interest from the community and get support in getting this event off the ground that we would need a charity aspect to the event. So last year we chose to support OCCAN, which is a branch of the Canadian Mental Health Association that focuses on occupational stress injuries in first responders. So our goal was to raise money for that. I think to piggyback off of that, it was good timing to support first responders, because when this event actually took off, we were just coming out of COVID, which we know was very hard on all first responders, especially the medics and firefighters. And then on the police side of things, we were just kind of coming out of the defund police movement. So there was, I think, a lot of impact on first responders during those times in terms of like mental health and job satisfaction. So the charity seemed to be a really good fit, and then the event itself was just kind of a cherry on top in terms of like some positive like morale boosting things.
That's awesome. It's very cool that you guys are doing that, and I mean that's where Nathan and I, we have spoken and obviously said we are trying to work on a very similar path, to be able to get this normalized, to be able to have mental health on the forefront for first responders, because we tend to be the typical ones that are used to helping and not being helped, and that becomes a big issue. So Nathan, I mean, tell us about last year's event and what you've got planned for this year, and the name of the event, I guess, as well. Is it YXEFRFF? Is that right?
That's correct. We've heard a few times it's a bit of a mouthful, YXE being the Saskatoon code. And then we were trying to come up with a way that really signified what it encompassed. So First Responders Fitness Festival. which
Cool.
we can get into later, has a side aspect of also being a children's festival. So it's kind of got something for the entire family. But the first part of your question was telling you about last year's event. Like Ange said, we started with $0. The idea that the 5 of us were motivated to make happen. We started kind of planning. We met in March. I said, let's meet in April and see what kind of interest we have. We put out some emails to all of our respected companies and try to gather interest. It was a little slow going at first, but it started, like Ange said, started to kind of snowball as we got our people involved. And we started to make, I guess, essentially a business plan with no formal charitable business experience between the 5 of us. So we started canvassing our unions for a bit of support. We got a little bit of financial support to kind of help get the wheels rolling. And we started meeting kind of month by month basis just to see where we were at. And every month we came back, we were truly kind of more surprised with where we were at. And it started to become bigger and bigger. And I've also been, I've got a bit of a title of being the guy who has too many ideas sometimes, because it's like, let's do this, let's do that. And I laugh about that because we started to really get into like what this could be, because you can feel the potential of it. As Ange had said, just the timing of this event was really quite good. And it really did blow up over the course of, it took us 7 months to plan from start to finish. And the first event was October last year, right after Thanksgiving. It was 2 days. I believe it was 8 or 9 events over the course of those each day. We had 60 athletes, so we had 20 paramedics, 20 firefighters, 20 police officers, 10 male, 10 female per team. And everyone didn't really get the details. We kind of kept it close to chest as to what the actual competition was going to be until the day of. We were very fortunate. We had a local facility here in town donate their facility, and that was a big, huge part of the success of this event was lots of donations from our community. We canvassed, I believe it was 165 businesses last year for support. The one that comes to mind is, as Angela had mentioned, Chris is quite the obstacle course racer, and he wanted to make an obstacle course part of the event. So we were given quite a large amount of money worth of lumber. We constructed our own obstacle course, which was inside the venue. You name it.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, we were getting some help from people, financial donations towards the event, financial donations towards the charity. And Ange, if I'm missing anything, please feel free to fill in after, as I know there's just so many variables to what happened last year, because there was buy-in from the community. The 5 of us worked very hard to plan it, but there was also buy-in from our co-workers and those who were on the teams, right? Because without the buy-in of everybody else, this idea wouldn't have got to where it is. And so, yeah, $0, no social media presence, to now where we have a pretty reasonable social media following, and you can feel a bit of a community building within Saskatoon's first responders around this event as well. So the event went really well. We were very fortunate. It snowed the following weekend, not the weekend we were doing our event. We had like bouncy castles, we had ambulances, for police vehicles, all sorts of stuff for families to come check out, so that parents could bring their kids, have something enjoyable to do, but also then come witness the physical competition aspect of it. So it was really quite something.
It's awesome. That's cool. I think it's particularly cruel that you had it the weekend after Thanksgiving. I bet you there was a couple of people there that were kind of like, dude, seriously. Oh man, that's awesome. Mm-hmm. So, before we get into this year, look, it's a huge idea. And to be able to take something on like this is massive. For anyone who has not ever planned a fairly big, event, I guess, there's a lot of moving parts. And so one can't help but go, why is it that you guys stuck this out, stayed with it to make it a success, and are now into year 2 of it? Like, what is the impetus? What's the drive? What's the power?
Oh boy, that's a big question. I think honestly last year we surprised ourselves, we all already work full-time jobs that are stressful on their own. So for 5 people to kind of take on this other huge undertaking, and then to not even really know how it was going to turn out. We we had an idea of what it should look like, but we're not event planners. We've never done this before, so we had no idea really, even ourselves, what we were walking into that weekend. And then I think all the hard work, all the almost like blood, sweat, and tears that happened to get to that point was very much worth it that weekend, when we had 60 competitors who were so happy to be there and had so much fun and couldn't wait to do it again next year. And we had some fairly large sponsors that came out and set up their business in like kind of a trade show portion too of the event. And there was a fairly large company there who they are event planners, and they had pulled me aside and were like, you guys have something here, like this is incredible. Wow. And for this to be the first year, so I think our cups got so overfilled that weekend. And I think the other portion too is like, I mean, we put it out to the community that it was a free event, come out, have fun, bring your family. And we were like, nobody, like we were expecting almost nobody to come. Like we just had no idea if there was interest or whatever. And then there were hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people in and out of the venue all weekend long. And there were times when like the stands were packed, like there was no room for anyone else to get up there. Like it was insane. So I think seeing it come to fruition, and to come to fruition in that way, and that it was very positive and there was so much positive feedback, that it filled our cups up to want to take it on for a second year and try again and make it bigger and better. And it, I mean, Nathan, you can jump in too, but I think we've also we're trying at least to fill in some gaps where once you kind of got into the emergency services, there's no accountability really to stay fit or to take care of yourself or do any of these things. So, I mean, I know we had people join gyms to get fit because they wanted to make the team this year, because now we needed to have tryouts and
awesome.
Things like that. Yeah. And I know on the medic side of things, it's gotten huge for you guys where, and Nathan, like I'll let you speak to that, but where you guys have had people desperately wanting in some capacity. So I think that would be my answer, is that we've seen such a positive impact and people wanting to be involved that it's hard to, at this point, to just wash our hands of it and walk away.
Yeah, you're done now. That's it. That is it.
One and done.
Well, you've got something beautiful started, because, and what I want you guys to both speak to, I mean, look, there's number one, and you brought it up in terms of exercise, getting out and working out and hitting the gym. And that's something that I feel we all do before we get in because we need to. And then the job starts taking that away from you, just in terms of you become so time limited. You're exhausted, throw a family into it. Nathan, you're about to find out how much fun that is. And then it just becomes wild. So I guess what I'm asking is, if you could speak about in terms of how it's affected the exercise, if you've seen any effects in terms of morale, mental health wise or whatever. And also, and this is, people who are in the first responder world get this. I mean, cops make fun of firefighters, firefighters chirp paramedics, paramedics chirp firefighters, and we all just chirp each other. We totally chirp each other. We always work, I think anyways, in my experience, phenomenally at a scene, but we always chirp each other. The problem is that it seems, at least again in my experience, that when we do things, it's, well, kind of just the cops or just the RCMP or just the paramedics do their thing and the firefighters do their thing. You guys are bringing together a community here, which again brings us back not only to mental health, but just in terms of forming relationships, which are huge. If you guys could speak to that.
Yeah, I absolutely. You made some very, very good points there in terms of like fitness being really crucial for mental health. I know for myself, I never used to do that when I was younger, and I noticed as I started to progress through my career, I hurt my back one day, not at work. I started to work out. That was my kind of linchpin. I started to notice the benefits of how it made me feel with work, and then that became something that was part of my routine, and I think that's benefited me quite a bit, as well as having very good friends to talk things out with. I think that's a huge thing for myself personally. So the motivation in terms of the event, like Ange had kind of said it, we were very overwhelmed, I think, at how it was received. I mean, we were expecting maybe our parents, and then to see how many people showed up, it became very clear that all the work we had kind of put in was worth it. And so in terms of how it's affected the workplace, from a paramedic side of things, like Ange said, once you're in the once you're through school, there's no self accountability to stay fit unless you are wanting to. And part of this event, like she said, is to create a good environment, a good community, and a cult. I'd say for myself, from a medic standpoint, trying to create a bit of a culture at work through the motivation of this event, right? You know, people are going to do what they want to do, and that's okay. But this is, I'd like to think it's not necessarily work mandated. It's not necessarily union mandated. It's one of those things that it's an option if you want to come be a part of it. It's something to be motivated for, and I think that was one of my motivations, is give something people at work to be excited about, and that I'd see it's been really successful, as Ange had mentioned, from a medic standpoint, specifically from our team. For this year, we had to have tryouts. And last year, we didn't have tryouts. It was a matter of just kind of gauging interest. And also, I should touch on what Ange had said in terms of people preparing for the competition. We were fortunate last year. The other paramedic, he's a CrossFit coach, works at CrossFit gym. We were able to set up not a deal, but we organized something where anybody who wanted to train to prepare for the competition could go. So you started to see 20 people, or almost 20 people taking their fitness a little more seriously because they had something to look forward to in that regard. And when we initially signed on, Bo and I, the paramedic organizer, we said, what is our motivation from a medic standpoint? It was let's try and build something for people to be excited about, a good culture, and that was our initial goal. And it definitely seems to be kind of snowballing, I would say, a little bit.
Yeah, that's
and
fantastic.
Then,
I mean, that's phenomenal.
To touch on too what you said about kind of bringing all the agencies together, that was like a huge part of this. Like, one thing we had discussed as a committee when we first came together is the only time we ever see each other is at a call, and that it's never really a positive experience. You're there to get a job done, and you leave, and that's it. So one of the main goals for us too was kind of some interagency camaraderie, and to bring people together and whatever. And I mean, even as an example tonight, like team police, we're going to do a spin class together, and there's some medics coming and there's some firefighters coming, and it's just kind of like this positive place where we can go together and get something done. And like, I've gotten to know quite a few firefighters, I've gotten to know quite a few medics better, and that's said for the 60 people that are involved. So even that, just you do this competition side by side together, you do this hard thing together that is positive, and you then have this like bond where you see each other on the street and you have something else to talk about, or maybe a friendship forms in a different way too, like even outside of that. So that's been a huge goal of ours with the event as well, to kind of, I guess, mend some fences that, because like you said, emergency services, we all chirp each other and whatever, and we're better than the firefighters and better than the medics or whatever, when really we're all out there trying to do the same thing. So, yeah.
And Saskatoon's a small enough big city that I've noticed in the years since the competition, going to calls with people who are on the team, there's that instant, hey, how are you? And you have that kind of bond that you were there, and it's definitely more of a open dialogue. It's really nice to see.
Look, and again, I have to keep bringing it back to the mental health side. I think it is so refreshing to know that some of the boundaries are being broken, because if you're in a room with 59 other people, because there's 60 in total, that are experiencing the same things you are, that's healthy. That's a good thing. And to make those relationships and those connections, that's a good thing. It doesn't even mean you have to talk about, a lot of times, anything. It's just to know that person is there and they get you. I know, and I can't speak from paramedics, Nathan, but I know from as a cop, man, we better basically kind of, I won't even say we really get along with each other. We can tear each other apart pretty good, but then it's kind of like outside of that, we almost have issues with anyone, trust and stuff like that. And this is breaking down a lot of barriers, I really believe. And I presume you're getting to know not only the other athletes, but sometimes their families as well, because they're bringing them along to the event, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 100%. Another thing, I guess, while we're on this topic, kind of a thing to add. So in the last month, we actually lost a member to suicide, like at SPS. And one of the things that was very nice to see is like Team Fire, like for this event, there was an insane amount of support from them, and they got SPS like a sympathy card, and they got like Team Police for the event. They all pitched in and got like a gift card like for the team, and there's just kind of this extra layer of almost support where typically you may feel like, you know, the police are in this, or like ourselves or like whatever.
Yep.
And you now have the support from fire, and I mean the medics as well. Like there was support everywhere, but I think it bridges that gap too, where, you know, we're all feeling the same thing. With this event, we're all raising money for this cause, like, so these things don't happen, in prevention and all of that. So I think that's something to be said too, just kind of that extra kind of family feel within first responders, but outside of your own agency. Yeah.
I like that. I really like that. Yeah. And that's, I mean, listen, we really do need more family. That bond absolutely needs to be there.
A perfect example of what Ange is mentioning is it was a bit of a social experiment last year when everybody arrived, because we had an athlete room. And I remember walking in, and it was kind of like a grade 8 dance. Everybody was in their corners for the first couple hours.
Yeah.
And you started to see, after an event or two, people started to like lighten up a bit. And all of a sudden, by day 2, there was no more, this is my area, your area. Like, everybody was kind of commingling. And even on the competition floor, you could see people really starting to gravitate towards each other. And so that was part of almost like an intangible we'd kind of not realize in the process. So that, sorry, just an example is to touch on Ange's point.
No, that's phenomenal. No, absolutely. And we tend to do that. I mean, we tend to congregate towards our likeness, and as cops, there's a likeness there. As a firefighter, a likeness, and as a paramedic, the same thing. And so to be able to get that, and I get, Nathan, that we seem to fail to appreciate the likeness in the other one. And you know, the YXEFRFF is again bringing that together and breaking down those boundaries. I think it's phenomenal what you guys are doing. I think in a lot of ways you guys are crazy. Holy smokes, you. I mean, you have to be.
I would agree.
Like, right? Yeah. Like, I mean, are you guys like, wow? I don't know.
Side note. None of us had kids last year, which I think helped. So
right.
That might have been helpful.
Yeah. What's the plans for this year? What's happening?
Well, so much of the same. This year, it felt like we already had some building blocks in place. Like, we've done it once before, so we can kind of start to build on it. So one thing that was easier this year was obviously like the interest from our teams. We didn't have to beg or plead to get anyone to come out. Like Nathan said, we had to have tryouts. Another thing that was easier this year was getting community support. I mean, we have something to show for our idea now, and that we were successful in the first year and donated over $25,000 to charity in our first year.
Wow.
So we definitely had some proof in the pudding, I guess, per se, that we were able to pull this off. So I guess in gaining community support, gaining financial sponsors, and gaining that stuff has been significantly easier. And has allowed us to build on our event from last year. So, I mean, it will look very similar, but our obstacle course will be bigger and better. Our children's festival will be bigger and better. Our, you know, there's gonna be more, I guess. And yeah, I guess that's my.
What about, I mean, go ahead, Nathan.
And I was gonna say from last year to this year. Last year, going in as we did, we were doing a lot of things manually. We were ordering shirts, counting shirts. So we did fundraising through a number of ways. Back to canvassing, we canvassed local businesses, had a raffle basket, tickets for sale, which helped us raise money. We actually had one of our paramedics, who is a graphic arts designer. She designed our logo that you see. So we ended up making shirts based off of that, and we sold, I think, how many shirts, Ange?
Last year we sold over 700.
Yeah, like we sold over 700 shirts last year, and so all that helped us fundraise. And then we realized that we had to kind of streamline things a bit for this year. So to Ange's credit, we now have a website. She's done a ton of work on organizing the website, and our fundraising through clothing items has been much easier. And we've noticed there's been a lot of buy-in that way, which has helped with the overall progression of I guess we call it a brand, but establishment of the event for sure. And in terms of the other question was what's going on for this year, is that correct?
Yeah.
This year, like Ange said, I think we're just trying to not overshoot too much and perfect the secret sauce, if you will, and make sure that this year wasn't a one-off. But like she said, we've kind of doubled back to checked everything from last year, seen where we can fill in gaps, done an after-action report or whatever, if you want to call it that. I remember last year we told ourselves we're going to take a couple months off, And that was Sunday. And then Monday I was back to work, and we were flying somewhere, and I was typing notes on my laptop, making sure we didn't lose anything, because we wanted to make sure that this year was more of the same. And I suppose that's a credit to the 5 people on this organizing committee as to why it went so well, as we all put a bunch of time in. And so, like Ange said, the competition aspect will be bigger and better. The Kids Festival is going to have more of the same, and hopefully the weather is good.
And what are the dates?
October 14th and 15th.
Okay, October 14th and 15th. Are there people from outside of the first responder world invited to come watch or anything?
Yeah, it's open to the whole community. We advertise in various ways through the school system, especially because we like to use it as a bit of a recruiting tool as well for high school age kids and things like that. So, I mean, all of our agencies will be there set up for that part, and it's, I think, a really fun way to see first responders and a really positive way to see first responders. I mean, as we all know, it's getting tougher and tougher to recruit people into kind of the public service industry in general. So, we advertise through the school system, through, local radio stations and everything. So everyone and anyone is welcome to come out. And I think, last year there were a significant amount of people there who weren't really involved in the first responder world at all. So.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome.
I think last year, speaking to the success of the event and how caught off guard we were, I think we had every local news station come by for an interview, and we had CBC radio come by, and like we had gone on the news beforehand just to kind of promote the event, but the response locally was really overwhelming. It's going to take some time to get good on camera at this rate, I'm learning, but it has been helpful that way. And then this year, same thing, like Ange said, we've gone on the news again. We're promoting via social media, via posters around town. We're actually trying to do something this month, if we can make it happen, where all the gyms that have supported us, because Team Fire, Team Police, and Team Medic are all actually, I don't want to say almost affiliated, but they've all got their own gym that's helping them train this year. So we're going to try to get a member of each group to potentially go to each gym and do kind of like a mini victory lap and do a workout in their competition jerseys, just to promote awareness and also promote the gyms that are helping us, because obviously, like we've said a few times, this would not have been possible without the buy-in of the local community helping us make this happen.
Right. And again, I've mentioned before in terms of breaking down walls, but you're doing the same thing with community. If you're bringing community members out, aside from just the recruiting, but you're actually bringing people to see that cops and firefighters and paramedics are human, that they, we're not robots. We're not unfeeling. We're not uncaring. We're not competitive. We're human.
I think another way we expanded more into the community this year. So last year, all of our kind of charitable donation went to OCCAN, so straight back to first responders. And this year, although that is an extremely important part of this and something we still will continue to support, we also wanted to give back something to the community outside of first responders. So this year, we're splitting our charitable donation between OCCAN and Kids Sport Saskatoon. Where this is kind of a physical fitness event, like to all of us, sport has been extremely important in our lives, and we think it's important that all kids get to experience that too. So this year we are splitting our charitable donations between OCCAN and Kids Sport Saskatoon. So Kids Sport has been heavily involved, and they will have obviously an arm's reach within the community to kind of bring more people to the event that otherwise may not have known about it or whatever. And then I guess, speaking of bigger and better this year, we already have over $30,000 in the bank that will be donated this year. And we're still kind of going for the next couple weeks. So we're happy to see that part has progressed as well, that we're being able to raise and donate more money than the first year.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And that's maybe something we forgot to touch on, is last year being the first year, we just had people come out. We were just wanting to establish it. This year, to try reach that donation goal, as Ange had mentioned, we set 30,000 as our goal, and to our 60 competitors' credit who train and buy into this for 6-7 months as it leads up to it, they help fundraise. So we established the clothing line, and we've got the raffle baskets. We give people ways that they can fundraise, and then each athlete had to pay an entry fee this year, which goes towards the charitable donation, and then they also had an expectation to do some fundraising, and that has really helped us reach that financial goal.
It's amazing. That's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
I feel I don't need to tell you guys, because if you don't know yet, you really should. But it's awesome what you were doing. It is so very needed on so many levels. And that leads into the next question. Have you guys yet been contacted by other municipalities, other
Yes.
provinces about doing this? So tell us about that.
I'm just noticing, especially from the paramedic side of things, I'm starting to get messages from paramedics who don't necessarily work in Saskatoon, just because right now it is local. We've had people reaching out, they'd love to get involved, love to compete. And as we said, this year we're sticking to as it was last year just to make sure we don't overshoot. So seeing that has been quite nice. And then speaking of culture, one of the main paramedic teaching campuses is in Saskatoon. So we've got the posters up there and trying to kind of reach students as they leave school and see that there's more in terms of keeping themselves fit. But yes, there is outreach from students who want to get involved, there's outreach from medics who work not just in Saskatoon. And I think, Ange, if I'm not mistaken, we had a couple firefighters and paramedics from Alberta reach out to us.
Yeah, we, like Chris, my kind of counterpart with SPS, he actually had a meeting with some police officers in Regina because they wanted to get their own thing going that's very similar. We've had people reach out from other cities in Saskatchewan, from Alberta, from BC, who actually want to come and compete. So there's definitely room for it to expand, but right now we're only 5 people that all have full-time jobs. So one thing at a time, I guess. But yeah, it's tough to say where it will go. But yeah.
Well, I'm not surprised that there's other places that would want it to take off. That's a reality. And I mean, if you're going to move outside of Saskatoon, it almost needs to be expanded. I would think that they should be responsible in their own areas. Now, I'm not going to lie. I think it'd be pretty cool if there, was a team winner from Saskatoon who took on the team winner from Regina and kind of played. I think that'd be kind of neat.
Yeah,
and then again, you're even. Yeah, you've got Alberta wanting to get involved. It becomes very, very cool. And look, I don't give a it's my podcast, so I can say what I want to say. I don't give a shit if I'm being repetitive. This is phenomenal what you're doing. It is so important. Let's go right back to the beginning when I ask both of you, have you been diagnosed with PTSD and do you have operational stress injuries? And both of you said very similarly that, yeah, you've experienced a lot of horrible things, a lot of stressful things. Mm-hmm. However, no, you don't. And one can't help but use that as even some small deduction that exercise, relationship building, communicating, being busy in terms of something that is actually positive and building, that these are things that perhaps help a lot of members that they should be getting involved in. I mean, your thoughts on that?
I would say last year when we were planning, we had reached out to a couple people we know who were struggling or had some, maybe were off work or had other things going on. And we said, by no means is there any pressure, but this is the kind of thing we'd love to have you involved in. We know they have fitness backgrounds, know that they're like-minded that way. And we extended those offers and we saw some buy-in from people. The hope is that, it gives people something to look forward to being involved in, like you said, and it's something to look forward to. And so I'm kind of rambling, but essentially, yes, we extended that. We saw some buy-in, and I know, I have one friend for sure who I can think of really benefited from it, having a group chat of people saying, hey, I'm going to the gym today. I'm going to the gym at this time, or what time are you going? Okay, there's 3 medics going this time, there's 3 medics going today, and there's always someone going to the gym who's like, hey, come with me. Or I can't go today, I'll go tomorrow. So there's kind of that constant group building that kept people maybe who would take a day off or wouldn't want to go get outside. A little bit of group, I don't say accountability, but that pack mentality of let's go get better together. And I think that really, I've seen that benefit just kind of being in the group chats and seeing how much people are pushing each other to go and they share their workouts and they share all their excitement for the event as it leads up to it. And so, it's been very positive.
Yeah, and I think to piggyback on that, for myself, personally, anytime I've been in a bad place with work or in a bit of a hole or whatever, it's been exercise that kind of gets me out of it. So that was one thing that with this that we definitely wanted to spread to everyone, as well as kind of the community feel and the group accountability and things like that. I think too, just with like supporting a mental health charity, it does get people even just talking about it. Like, I'm raising money for this mental health charity, and these are the things that they
Absolutely.
offer, and that people know that these resources are there, or it's just coming up in conversation more. So I think that's an important piece too, that there's
Absolutely.
just kind of this group of people that are fundraising money for the same purpose, and it should in theory be a safe place to talk about struggles or whatever. So I think that's a piece too.
Well said. Very well said.
And I recall, it'd be 3 years ago now, you and your coworkers came. It was a competition at the same CrossFit gym, and they competed it was in uniform to raise awareness. And so that was almost like a preamble to where we're at, if I'm not mistaken. Right?
Yeah, so I guess it would have been in oh my God, I can't remember. 2021, I think. Myself and 2 other members competed in a CrossFit competition in full police uniform to raise money for the same charity. So yeah, it was definitely a nice lead in, I guess, to this event that took off the next year. But yeah.
People who are listening to this podcast, listen to the episode, and want to somehow get involved, support, what can they do?
Well, check out our website. There's a contact us kind of page on our website if you do want to get involved in some way, which is www.YXEFRFF.ca. We're also on Facebook and Instagram at YXEFRFF. So you can get in contact with us through any of those avenues if you're wanting to help or get involved or whatever. Yeah.
And you guys still have merchandise available people can get their hands on?
We have some. There's not a lot left. We're also, I guess, selling raffle tickets. I guess that's kind of the other nice part too. Like with our raffle fundraising last year and this year, we really aimed for like health and wellness items. So I guess we're even kind of trying to push that lifestyle even through raffle, that, you know, it's like gym memberships or like rounds of golf, supplements, like massage therapy, like appointments, and things like that. Just like very like lifestyle, health and wellness stuff that we're trying to push through that as well. But that was a side rant. Our raffle does go until October 1st, which all those proceeds go directly to our charities of choice as well. So, and those tickets can be purchased online.
And the raffle, I presume, is open to local only?
Saskatchewan only, yeah.
Yeah. Unless someone wants to walk and pick it up, then
Right.
right?
Yeah.
You were going to say, Nathan?
I was just going to say that was the one caveat. And we've been very fortunate that people have been out canvassing for us from our teams, and that businesses have been so good in helping us build those baskets, and that people are buying in. And even just one that's kind of unique is, I'm not sure if you know, but think you Danson Photography. If you've heard of him, we reached out to Danson, and just because of his line of work and his pictures and whatnot, and he actually
Dan's awesome, great guy.
Sent us an autograph book, which is one of our raffle tickets, which I thought was really quite cool to see support from him. And I think one thing to mention would be last year raising that $25,000, and correct me if I'm wrong, Ange, when we gave the money to OCCAN, we followed up with them to see kind of what it did to benefit them, and I don't remember the exact amount of people it was able to support, but do you?
Well, I can look. It was fairly large.
I want to say like over 1,000 or something like that.
Holy shit. Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I mean, at the end of the day, you guys have to feel great about this. I know it's a huge amount of work. But I mean, not just because I know Angie started off and said you're kind of a gym nerd. But I mean, you guys, this is something really cool.
It was also super fun.
I think it was very fun. There's very high highs to this and very low lows. Like when, just because, like there's just so many things that come up. And again, like this isn't our job. We have zero training in event planning or any business sides of things. Like even this year we had a problem we needed to apply for lottery licenses where we were a bit bigger this year and things were going to be done online. And do you think that we had our books done to be able to kind of show lotteries that we're an official nonprofit and that our books are done? No. So there's all this kind of troubleshooting that comes along with, okay, well now we need to find a pro bono accountant to quickly do our books and get this financial statement. And like, meanwhile, we're all working night shift, and like there's these problems that pop up that are not fun to deal with. And there's just a lot of behind the scenes things that, as much as it's worth it and as amazing as it was that weekend, and I'm sure it will be again this year, that there's some lows for sure, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And I mean, everyone probably thinks that you guys are, making on this in terms of yourselves too, that you're putting into things, but you guys are just doing this for the love of it.
I'd say last year it pulled a lot of personal time away. I know personally.
Yeah.
Speaking to my spouse, she asked me this year to do a better job of mitigating my time. So the balance this year has been a goal, just because, like Ange said, we're 5 people working full-time jobs. And ground up last year was a bit harder. This year, with it's established, it's been a little bit easier. But yeah, as it grows, it certainly has taken a lot of time. Helping manage your team, right? Coordination of your teammates, correspondence, sending emails to places and follow-ups and organizing things. And like Ange has been running the website, the merchandise, the shipping. Everyone is doing a role. And so it is easy to get task saturated with your phone or emails or whatever if you're not careful. And so that part definitely, I would say I was almost naive in, because I was just excited about it and realizing as we went along how much it took out of us on a day-to-day basis, or even trying to do it at work if you want to do it at home. So yeah, I'd say there's a lot of those things have been challenging, but I will say also last year I was part of I actually competed last year on our team, and so competing in the event was incredibly fun. It was very rewarding. Seeing all the people there was rewarding. Seeing the way that it's affecting the people you work with is rewarding. So it is managing those expectations in your head of how much work you put in and how much it's benefiting people is something that's kind of an ongoing thing.
Yeah, I get that. I 100% understand it. Absolutely. Even just in terms of doing this, like there's a lot more than people realize, but it also becomes a little bit of a drug in the sense that you can see the positivity and the effects that are occurring, and it's a great feeling. It's a solid feeling. Guys, before we end the episode, is there anything else that either one of you would like to add? The floor is open. Feel free. If there's anything we left out, anything else you want to say, go right ahead.
I would say first and foremost, I appreciate the work that my co-organizers do. It's easy to get excited about doing this, but it is not easy to do it on your own. It's a group effort for sure. And I would like to just say that publicly. The people I work with on this committee put in a ton of time, and it's reflected in the quality of product that came out last year, and it will happen again this year. And then in terms of the teams, I'll speak to the medic team specifically. I really do appreciate the buy-in and how hard people work for us, because like we make it and then people buy in and it becomes a thing. So I'm very, very grateful for that.
Yeah, I would say the same thing. Like, very grateful for the team that we have for representing Team Police. Like, I don't know if cops are just they're used to being told what to do, but there's never any questions. Like, you need something done and it just gets done. There's a fundraising expectation, it's done. There's no fighting or arguing or any issues that need problem solved there, I guess. So I'm very thankful for the group of people that we did have buy-in. And then to echo Nathan's statement, just our committee is huge, and we're definitely, I think, a group of doers who just, and you have to be at this point, like, you're to be successful, or you just have to be willing to do stuff. So very thankful for my team and my committee.
Is there any odds yet on which team is going to take it this year?
Well, the medics have been doing steroids all year because they're not testing for PEDs yet.
Nice. All right. I like it.
Unofficially.
Right?
I'm
Unofficially,
kidding.
Yeah. You got access to syringes. Lucky bastard.
No, I'm
I know,
totally
man.
kidding.
I know. So what are you thinking, Ange? Is it going to be the police? I mean, yeah. Uh-oh. How do you feel about that, Nathan?
I'm going to go ahead and stick with no comment.
That's phenomenal, guys.
Yeah.
Awesome. And listen, for everyone who's listening, I mean, here's the thing. It's phenomenal that the organizations have come together, that there is true bonding, there is a true sense of brotherhood and sisterhood, and that it is not just a fun competition between the 5 organizers, but it became something that the feeling, I guess, wanted to be shared. It wanted to be open. It wanted to make it a competition, but also brings together very important groups that unfortunately, again, as Ange said, attend scenes at the most horrific times and are certainly non-conducive to any sense of relaxation or building relationships. This is a phenomenal event, and I encourage anyone who's listening, get in contact, reach out, start following YXEFRFF. If there's a way you can support it all, you know it's going to a great cause. And there's nothing even wrong with just shooting them off a message and say, hey, there's something awesome about you guys are doing. And maybe that's something that we should be looking at in other places. My name is Larry Payton. I have your 6. Please have mine.
Don't go away. There's so much left to do, so many things I wanna say, and I say, don't make the change. If it rains every single day, I'll fight to blow it all away.